And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage, and you're joining us on the podcast today, which is Leveraging Thought Leadership. So today, my guest is coming to us from the other side of the world. So Oleg Konovalov is a global thought leader, a business educator, the author of several books, including his most recent, which is called Leaderology. He's on the Thinkers 50 radar. He's part of the Marshall Goldsmith 100. He's a number one global leading coach, and he's been recognized as the number one global thought leader on culture by Thinkers 360. And I'm glad to have him on board with us today. Welcome aboard, Oleg. How are you?
Oh, Peter, thank you very much for having me on today's show. And I'm so happy to talk with you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. So let's just sort of dive in here. So I've always believed that content and thought leadership is a global business, right? And the applications are universal. So tell me a little bit about what you've done and maybe what you've struggled with and what's worked, getting your content out from Russia to the rest of the world.
Interesting question. First of all, I'm looking at thought leadership from a bit different angle.
Yes.
It's not only a content creation, it's a finding a solutions to different real problems or real business problems. Content is important, but it comes as a result of a very sharp solution which you bring to the world and giving to people and saying, hey, use it and change the way you do the business for betterment.
Yep.
It's a main driver for me, at least. And it doesn't matter where you're located, because these days what you need is Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly.
As you know,
Exactly.
as Martin Lindstrom said, "Okay, guys, I'm changing Maslow pyramid. Because you need a battery and you need Wi-Fi. That's it."
So I want to go back to a point you made a moment ago. So most people, and I think it's an interesting point, so I want to stick with it for a moment. So most people, as they dive into authorship and thought leadership and such, get mucked up in the content development because not that that's the easy part of it, but they're inundated with the demands to create new content, blogs, video, audio, etc. And I think what you said was really, really insightful around it's about figuring out the problems that you solve first. And that actually, once you get clarity around that, it actually makes the process of creating the right content in the right format for your audience a little bit easier. So can you unpack that a little bit?
Yes, it is easier when you found or realize what the real problem is and how to solve it. Yes, then content comes as it is. It comes naturally. It's a natural pace and a natural message, and it's only a matter of your time, how much time you have to develop more and more articles or blog posts or posts on LinkedIn. But what is more difficult, or the most difficult part, to find the real problem which stands, or grand problem which you're trying to solve. If you're looking at whatever, for instance, road leaderology, it was a call not just to give a book out, to publish a book. It was finding a solution why we should change the way we think about leadership.
So let me make sure I get that. So because I was going to ask you something
Yeah.
close to that. So when you wrote Leaderology, which is your most recent book, it wasn't to add another book to everybody's pile of leadership books because we all have way too many leadership books in our libraries, right? But you came at it and said, not that I have a better way to go about leadership, but there's a problem that I want to solve.
Yes. Again, you see, if we put together a definition of thought leadership and a definition of finding a solutions, you are having a compile understanding why thought leadership is changing the world. Because you're not just repeating the same things again and again.
Right.
You're breaking the ideas or pattern of thinking. You're helping people to make a leap out of old mistakes or old pattern of thinking to something radically new and helping a positive change.
Well, and I think when you put it in the context of a problem that needs to be solved, it forces you as the author and the thought leader to move from the abstract and the theoretical to the applied. Because then you're thinking, how does this person actually fix this problem that I'm, telling them that I can help them fix? the theories matter and the models matter and the methodologies matter, but crossing that bridge to the applied of what does that person do when they put the book back on their shelf and go back to be a leader the next day.
You see, I spent 30 years in very tough industry, in fishing industry, where everything comes to a point, what is the result? You can't massage your stock report. No. You can't massage your result, and you need to deliver every day something practical,
Yes.
something real. And I'm using the same approach in my thought leadership.
Yes. Okay.
What I delivered valuable to people today. But what I have learned, and recently I really realize it in a strong way.
Yes.
For instance, when we're traveling across the continents, we're facing a jet lag.
Sure.
And we're recovering like a day per each hour of time difference. But we're ignoring a mind lag. We are rocketing through the years. We are developing, we're progressing, particularly now at an incredible pace. But our mind is still slowed down by the old days practices. And so my job is to help people to realize what is new, what is coming, and how to cover this mind lag in understanding modern trends, approaches, concepts in the quickest possible way.
Got it.
That's a bit of a difference I see when people talk about thought leadership as a general understanding of it.
So I want to add to that though. So you've got sort of the solve the problem, and then you're sort of shaking up the mindset, you're giving them solution. One thing that I didn't hear you say in terms of the setup is okay, you've got to solve the problem, but who are you solving that problem for? And what I mean by that is we spend a lot of time in our work with our clients getting really specific around the avatar. We call them avatars, and we call them client profiles, whatever you'd like. Who are you sort of providing and who are you being of service to? Because solving a leadership problem for a frontline manager has a very different sort of, there's a different approach to that than it would be if you're, the chairman of the board of a company. So could you touch on the who for a moment?
In both instances, whether you're solving a problem for a chairman or for a line manager, you're helping them to close a distance between them and people,
Yes.
between them and customers. Because the way I see it, what problem is? The problem is a distance between business and the
Right.
customers, or organization and its
Sure.
members or employees. And my aim is to help to close this gap, to eradicate
Mm-hmm.
this distance. When the people working really together and creating something incredibly valuable. And at the same time, as I always argue, is leader is not growing by own ambitions or anything like that. He is grown by people and together with people. And that's what we need to help. So as a higher position, like chairman, he got more responsibility to stay aligned with people while, let's say, coping with much higher pressure, with much higher responsibilities. But also, he defines the way. Therefore, for instance, I'm working on a project now, on a new project. I'm looking into vision, what a nature of vision is
Yes.
in terms of leadership, and how I could help leaders to develop their vision in a practical way. Not just saying that vision is important.
Yes.
Yes, we all know that. But how practically make it a daily practice and transfer it to others and share it? That's his critical.
If you're enjoying this episode of Leveraging Thought Leadership, please make sure to subscribe. If you'd like to help spread the word about our podcast, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. We're available on Apple Podcast and on all major listening apps, as well as at thoughtleadershipleverage.com/podcasts. Got it. So I want to move for a moment to coaching, because a lot of what you do or your recognition has been around as coach. So when you're coaching clients, how let's go backwards and talk about the type of people that you coach, right? So what is, because I think saying no is as important as saying yes. So who are the types of folks that you could have the most impact for and enjoy the most? in terms of the work that you do with them?
I'm pretty selective in this sense. I learned from Marshall Goldsmith's a very simple approach and a very clear approach. Help successful people to become more successful. I'm using the same approach.
Sure.
But success is not only a definition. I want to see the people who are really prepared for change. And that's my first question is about or the way I talk or engaging such coaching clients is I'm looking how courageous they are
Yeah.
to change their mindset because that is a definition or a platform from which they could step forward and grow. If they're not courageous enough to look at their mirror,
Right.
oh, well, it would be a bit of a waste of time because
Yep.
you see, they would be returning back and back. And as I think, I'm looking for a signal if my potential client, how much he's using a word if. If he is using a lot of ifs, that means he is not prepared. He is simply wasting my time and his own time because he is looking for excuses.
Got it.
And that's another side of how much you're really prepared to change yourself and not to find excuses.
Got it. So I want to unpack that a little bit. So there's two key points there. In number one is you're looking to coach people that are already successful, because in many instances, in some organizations, culturally, coaching is sort of this punitive, or it's done sort of as a prophylactic way to avoid an HR issue, et cetera. But the reality is, successful people that want to get more successful are actually more fun to coach. Is that a fair summary?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Because what happens in this sense? We're not talking about a scale of success, but we're talking how this person is looking and the way he achieved. Even he's failed before, but he knows that he done the best of himself.
Yep.
And he said, look, I know how I should act next time because I learned from my previous mistake. And that could be considered a success as well
Sure.
because he is already a fighter.
Yep.
And it's just, he needs a bit of a tuning, a bit of a help to get just like to rock it up.
But the other point that you made was the courage to be introspective, right? Because there's no place to hide in a coaching engagement, right? And if you're not willing to put it on the table, there's kind of no point there. So it does take a level of courage to participate in a coaching relationship as the coachee in a way that is really desirous of getting an outcome.
Coaching, it's a matter of fair questions and fair answers. And if someone is not prepared to be fair to own self,
Yep.
he wouldn't, he can't progress, he can't develop or grow, right? And become better leader.
Sure.
It's one thing. Another thing is if we're talking about what holds us back, as we mentioned, old mistakes, some kind of a local habits or practices. Because, for instance, coaching somebody in Russia, it's a tough thing because they always think, oh, we are not accustomed to such things. Hold on, you could live the way you or old previous generations lived, or you want to change something. That means leave everything behind and be brave or bold enough to make a step forward and do something differently.
Okay, so but I want to touch. So the point that you made was coaching in Russia is different because of the culture.
Absolutely.
But expand on that a little bit, because you could say that it's different in Brazil than in Canada, or Singapore versus Norway. You could also say that it's different between a baby boomer and a Gen Y. So what are the sort of cultural, intergenerational nuances to coaching and the universal truths that you've seen there as well?
Differences comes, for instance, if we talk a difference, Holland, UK, like fairly the same mindset,
Okay.
and Russia, they would be different. Russians are not prepared to accept something new unless it's publicly proved.
Okay.
So they need to wait for the next generation to approve that it works.
Okay.
Okay. So they are not prepared to be a change leaders themselves.
Okay.
They want everything publicly approved, bulletproof, not to stand out.
That's just a reflection of the culture and the environment that they're
Yes.
used to. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. What is common? I'm not helping them to change, let's say, in professional way. For instance, talking with medical consultants or people who are running hospitals or IT gurus.
Yep.
They are all clever in their certain fields, and I'm not about to interfere into their fields. But what I'm saying, I'm helping you to become, first of all, a better person.
But regardless of their domain expertise, right? So if you're dealing with a leader, like you said,
Yeah.
whether it's an IT or healthcare, they're not coming to you to get insight into how to be a better, engineer or technologist. Yeah,
No,
understand.
I'm just showing them because my approach is simple: truth, truth, lead. And I'm saying the truth is how much you will change, how it will affect your people, how it will affect you. And the next point, what will happen if you would not change? Who will overcome you, and what you would end up with? And then you think that's your decision because this is where you could go from point A to B within a short period of time, and it's measurable. You could see a difference, and that's what you could achieve. And that's a simplest approach you could take, and that is most reliable approach in my view.
Got it. Excellent. So as we start to wind up now, Oleg, any final thoughts or reflections or things that you would share with folks out there that are on their own journey of authorship and thought leadership and domain expertise?
Thought leadership, we all know that it is very focused, something on finding a very critical solutions to very critical problems. As I'm always saying, when you do fly fishing, you can't cast with two hands into two different sides of a pool. You cast one flight into one particular corner and keep casting, looking for solution. And another thing is, there is no you in this game. Your skin is in this game, but not you, because you're looking for a solution which would help people to become better. And this is where is your value. And this sense, listen to your people, do a lot of field work, do a lot of talking with people from different countries, from different industries before you will come up with something, before you open your mouth. That's what my simple approach.
Good stuff. All right, well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing your journey with us and the difference in sort of the cultural application from a Russian perspective, as well as the big focus on figure out the problem you're going to solve, I think is a big takeaway today. So thank you so much for sharing with us today, Oleg. I appreciate it.
Peter, thank you very much for the great work you do, and thank you for inviting me.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.